Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, who has had plenty of public disagreements with his former boss. Ambassador, you said right now they're drinking vodka straight from the bottle at the Kremlin. Putin couldn't be happier after Trump this afternoon repeated again that Putin would get at least some of what Putin wants, Ukrainian land and Ukraine blocked from NATO.
Well, he's going to get a lot of what he wants. This is almost a dream come true for the Kremlin. They're probably pounding themselves for thinking of coming in too low on what they should have asked for. I think what between Trump and Hegseth in the past 2 days they've laid out now becomes the best Ukraine can expect. I think it will get worse from there. And on the NATO point, as I understand it, if this reporting is correct, Trump said that really the provocation for Russia to attack was Biden saying that Ukraine could join NATO.
Yep.
And if that's accurate, it just shows how ignorant this president is. It's really embarrassing to the United States. In 2008, at the Bucharest NATO summit, George W. Bush pushed hard for quick NATO membership for Ukraine and Georgia. He didn't get it because of the French and the Germans, but NATO heads of state at that meeting said that basically that NATO ultimately would accept Ukraine. So that's been the American position since April of 2008. Maybe somebody should have told the president about that.
I was struck by something Trump said about Russia. He said, quote, "They took a lot of land from Ukraine. They fought for that land." One former diplomat called that a complete capitulation and a major blow to national security for the United States. Is he right?
Yeah, look, I think between the statements yesterday and today, this is as close to surrender as you can get. The road is open now for any country that commits unprovoked aggression. If it can just cozy up to Trump enough, he'll support their position. You know, you mentioned the hostage releases. There are a number of other things Putin has done. He said about 10 days ago that he agreed with President Trump that if he had been president, there would have been no Ukraine-Russia war. This is a charm offensive. Putin, ex-KGB agent that he is, knows how to maneuver Trump. He thinks he's an easy mark. He's done it before. He's done it again.
Putin, you know, it's important to remember, we keep talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine. Putin invaded Ukraine and started the biggest land war in Europe since World War II. Putin's army killed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and has now seized 20% of Ukrainian land. Trump says he believes that Putin now suddenly wants peace. Is that what you think?
No, I think this is further proof to Putin that Trump doesn't understand what he's gotten into. In the clip you showed of Trump, he said, I think Putin wants peace. I think he'd tell me if he didn't. That is another embarrassing statement by the President of the United States, to be so gullible, harking back to the famous comment he made at the Helsinki summit that implied he trusted Putin over his own intelligence community. And this is a one indication after another, in my view, why Trump is just not fit to be president. He's not up to dealing with people like Putin and Xi Jinping, and that is dangerous for our country.
Yeah, so far, we haven't heard anything of the nearly 20,000 Ukrainian children who were kidnapped and taken into Russia, or the war crimes that Putin stands accused of in the International Criminal Court. But, Ambassador, I got to ask you, there are people who will say, Bolton, he's a warmonger. Trump, he wants peace. What's your response to that?
I think that's simple-minded. I think the issue here is what's in the best interest of the United States. And I think standing for peace and stability in Europe, which has been a vital national interest of the United States for a century now, and resisting unprovoked aggression that threatens our NATO allies, those bordering on Ukraine in particular, is something that the United States rightly took into account by aiding Ukraine in this war. And to throw them over the side, which I think is what Trump has done, simply invites more aggression elsewhere. If I were on Taiwan tonight, I'd be very worried about what it means for us if China begins to threaten us and Trump just decides that you know, it's really part of China anyway.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.